Okay, welcome back to the Pursuit of the Podium podcast. So we are here joined by Sam Andrews. I'm sure that most of everybody will know Sam from the UK gravel scene and further afield, winning Badlands with Jesse Yates last year and going to Gravel Worlds. He's had a pretty stellar season. Sam's been going all over the world this year as well. You might have seen his sort of 2024 sort of program, and it's really nice to have Sam on the pod and just kind of exploring how he got to where he had and really saying, well, it's a really interesting story of that kind of unveiling more of that influency lifestyle, I suppose. So yeah, Sam, how are you doing?
Yeah, good man. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to join the pod and catch up.
Yeah, so me and Sam, we Sam was my team manager a couple of years ago on Clash Racing. So I guess that's a nice way to start. We had a really good time in 2022 racing gravel and fixie crits. But yeah, that's kind of how we met. And yeah, why did Clash Racing start?
Yeah, I mean, at the time when I was starting to get a bit more into bike racing, I wanted to basically set up a team of my own and kind of run things um, on my own level and kind of try to work with some brands and really kind of try and push it in a new direction and do different races and do things actually that weren't really part of the norm. And I guess just kind of really pushing the boundaries as to what traditionally UK teams kind of do really. I mean, the team very much sort of set out on the fixed gear criteriums, which was really fun, and then sort of slowly transitioned into more sort of gravel and off-road stuff like cyclocross, a bit of mountain bike, and yeah, sort of dabbled in bits of road. But yeah, really, it was just to kind of carve a fresh path and try and do something a little bit different. I never really felt like I fitted the mold of a sort of traditional club sort of team setup, and just wanted to yeah, just kind of have my own reins and kind of almost just sort of steer it the way that I thought was good for me and a few friends that kind of kicked it all off. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of that go cool places and do cool things sort of mentality, isn't it? And I think that's really then gone into the next sort of chapter of your sort of cycling kind of career, I suppose. Where it's actually like that's then kind of set you up to then move from fixie crits to gravel. And sort of why did you make that move?
Yeah, so I set up Clash in 2017, and it was actually kind of right at the very end, I guess, of the sort of the whole fixed gear scene that went on. I mean, that was all of the Red Hook Crit series and stuff, and that was really booming and very popular. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of joined it a little bit too late, really. But yeah, so the Red Hook Crit series kind of died off, and to be honest, there wasn't many other races really, especially in the UK. There wasn't many at all. Some bits in Europe which was still good to go out to, but yeah, it just kind of came down to the racing as well. I mean, riding a track bike with no brakes and gears is pretty sketchy. And I think really after after the Red Hook crit, the level sort of changed massively. I mean, the Red Hook was, I mean, I was fortunate enough to just do the one, and the level was super high. Like it's like racing a national crit. Like the level is really, really high. And after that series died off, there wasn't. It just felt like organized chaos, to be totally honest. I mean, we did the sort of what was it called, the Rad Race 642 in Berlin together, and I mean, that was pretty
Yeah,
nuts. I mean, the beauty of it is you've got experienced track riders and crit riders, and then you've got messengers and just people that want to kind of have fun on a fixed gear bike. So it can be a bit dangerous and sketchy. And
yeah,
yeah, like I say, the scene just kind of died off. Really, it wasn't there wasn't really much going on. So, and I've always loved sort of riding off road and stuff. And then I've always sort of paid attention to the gravel stuff out in the US and always wanted to kind of give it a crack at some point. And it was really just a matter of time, to be honest. And then got myself a gravel bike and started riding it a lot more. And actually, I enjoyed it to be fair, a lot more than riding on the road. So it's just what I wanted to do. And yeah, it's just nice being off the busy roads and being able to train in the nature and sort of enjoy all of those surroundings. And then, of course, racing in those surroundings as well is just fantastic. I feel like you get a lot more out of a trip, and a lot more out of a race. You're not just kind of chewing your stem on a busy A road in the UK.
Yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah,
you're
totally.
getting to see you're getting to see parts of the world that most tourists won't really see, and it's just it's a fresh way of racing a bike, really.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Like I've always said with my gravel rides, I'd rather do a 6 hour gravel ride than a 6 hour road ride because I get about 4.5 hours into a road ride, and I'm just like, right, I'm ready to go home now. But gravel, I find it just always keeps me motivated, and there's always something else to do. And it's exactly that, you're not really seeing anything that most people won't see. You're seeing things that most people won't see, and that's so cool that you then out there, out in nature, and all of that sort of stuff.
No, I was just going to say, and you get the best of both worlds, really, because most races it's a bit of a mix of road and gravel. So you're really kind of able to really sort of flex your bike skills and just sort of race in such a different way, really. So yeah, it's super fun.
But then moving on to that Badlands win with Jesse Yates, what was that like? Was it 800 Ks,
Yeah,
or was it
so
not shorter?
in the end, it was about just over 700k. It was scheduled to be 750, but they had to cut a bit of the route short due to bad weather, which is actually pretty funny because Granada, that time of the year in Spain's notoriously hot, and just so happened to be when we were there were really bad thunderstorms. So yeah, like the week before the race kicked off, there were huge flash floods and just crazy storms and
Wow.
stuff. So, but by
Yeah.
the time it got down to the race day, it kind of cleared up and it was still very hot and pretty unpredictable. To be fair, in the night it did drop. The temperatures dropped quite a bit, and there was quite a bit of rain actually on the first day as well, probably for about 10 hours. But yeah, so Badlands is an ultra distance race in Granada, Spain. Goes through a desert, which is pretty cool. Um, the Giraffe does it, I think it's called. I can't actually remember now, to be totally honest, but it's just mind blowing. The landscapes are absolutely
Yeah.
incredible, and so yeah, 700k, which in ultra distance terms, it's actually not a huge race. To be fair, it's a good sort of beginner's distance, which for me that was my first ultra race, and yeah, we did it in 45 hours total time. So yeah, we're pretty happy with that, and managed to get first place pairs and squeeze into the top 10. And yeah, I mean, really, that was just absolutely absolutely insane. Really, we pretty much rode our bikes for 40 hours straight and slept on a bench for about 5 minutes and experienced all sorts of emotions. And yeah, basically, it's really hard to like sort of piece it together, but if I was to put it into one sort of word, it would just be just I don't know, just epic, just so good. Like it's obviously hard, but the afterwards, the sort of things you look back on and the things you learn, it's just amazing, really. Highly recommend anyone giving some sort of ultra challenge or some sort of long distance event a go.
Yeah. How do you prepare for that sort of event? It's barely even a race. It's more of a just who gets round sort of situation, it seems.
Yeah, it really is. Like I thought I had an idea of how that sort of race works. But as soon as we went off, it was just totally different to what I thought. But luckily enough, I was with, like you say, Jesse, my partner, who had done a couple of ultra races prior to Badlands, so was pretty clued up on how it all works. And I mean, our plan from the get go was just to really ride steady for the first, until the night fell, and then to really sort of just keep pushing through the night and make up places because we knew that a relatively short distance for an ultra, people would kind of go off quite hard and potentially sort of crack when the night comes and early morning arrives. And that's exactly what happened. Really, we were in probably near enough last place for about 10 hours or something, or at least sort of,
Wowza, really?
yeah, towards the back for sure. And then, yeah, as soon as the night came, we were just, lights on, heads down, and found ourselves in top 10 in the morning, which was amazing. It's really just a case of sort of, you know, shutting out all of the bad thoughts and just sort of soaking it all in, and just really sort of dealing with the situation at hand, which again is such a big lesson you learn from doing those sorts of events, is just how far you can really sort of push yourself if you want to. Because going into that, I mean, I didn't have a clue how to sort of race that style of event, and it's just mad how you can just keep on riding and riding and riding, and you'd be
Yeah.
surprised at how far you can actually go. And it's but yeah, I mean, preparing for it, like training wise, it was, I mean, the only sort of real training I guess I did for it was tried to go for the FKT on King Alfred's Way, which was a good sort of 13, 14 hours ride, I think, in the end. But it was quite hard to fit in the training for the Badlands effort, because I was doing a lot of the sort of shorter gravel races and higher intensity efforts and a bit of road stuff. So it was really hard to try and like get those big rides in without sort of compromising um, the shorter races, which is a pretty hard balance for sure. But I think again, you can. There's only so much you can train for that sort of event. I think it really is down to your mental capabilities at the end of the day. To be honest, I mean, most riders will be able to just ride, but there's only um, a small handful out of a bunch that will be able to just ride and ride and ride, and just not stop. So I think it is just about, yeah, just being able to really push for your comfort zone. I think that's the main sort of thing I took away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. That mentality is completely different to a 1 hour smash fest around a field in the cross races, or even that 3 4 hour race that you're doing at Gralloch or something like that. As a gravel rider, you got to do all of those ultras and then also the gravel series as well. You've got to be such a well-rounded rider. So like last year you've been doing races from what, 40 miles to 700, and that's a very, very big range. But yeah, so sort of do you tailor your training throughout the year? If you're focusing on something like Steamboat, for example, compared to something like Badlands, or is it really just get to a high level and then it's just that for those longer stuff, it's just that mental capability, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I know I've got the sort of fitness to be able to do a big effort like that. It's really just a case of, having enough rest going into it and just sort of preparing your body for what it's going to go through, because, it's not really that comfortable sat on your bike for that long. Um, but absolutely, it's key to, more than anything actually, is to just test your equipment and test yourself. Is probably one of the main things, to be fair, because if you've got a bit of a niggle on your bike or something that's not quite right, it's always good to just whack out a big ride and sort of hash out those things that could sort of cause you to stop in the race, or cause an issue basically. So yeah, that's the main thing I was doing, really, was just riding with all the equipment on and stuff, and just sort of testing out nutrition as well, which was a key one to focus on. And yeah, I didn't actually do a huge amount of like night training, like riding through the night and stuff. And that was one thing that I wasn't really prepared for, and one thing that I haven't really done a huge amount of in the past. So that was definitely a weird adjustment for sure.
Yeah, was there anything in the race that you were like, actually, no, this is completely wrong, or sort of how was the equipment side of it? I imagine maybe lots.
No, to be fair, I mean, I'd say my setup was super dialed into it. The only thing I would have changed was the gearing. I just totally underestimated the amount of, well, I should have known, to be honest. Totally underestimated the amount of climbing we were in for. It was a huge amount. I think it was probably around, definitely over 20,000 meters of elevation throughout the whole thing. So yeah, not a small amount. And yeah, I had what did I have? A 44 on the front and a 1052 on the rear. So really, up some of the climbs was really sort of pushing it almost at walking pace. So yeah, definitely could have done with better gears, but yeah, I mean there were definitely times as well where you think, what the hell am I doing? Like, I remember one time in particular, sort of three, maybe 3 in the morning, just absolutely cracked. And I mean, there were many times where I was absolutely cracked, but to the point where I was like actually hallucinating and sort of seeing stuff on the side of the trails, which was just weird. Like, you know, not many people experience that, and I know it's a thing in the ultra world. Like people do hallucinate with just because of the sleep deprivation, but yeah, it was surreal to actually be in that, sort of be there and just sort of seeing shit on the side of the road. It was pretty strange, but you quickly snap out of it, and it's weird the amount of like, you know, lives you get back. You sort of feel tired 1 hour, then a couple of hours later you'll feel absolutely fine and feel on top of the world. It's strange, really, but good fun.
Yeah, and then moving from there, you then went to Gravel Worlds in the elite category. What
Yeah,
was that in terms of a step up? Was there a GB plan before the race,
not
or
really. I
was it more
mean,
of
so to be totally honest, like last year was a bit of a typical sort of how I've always done things, is try and do everything all at once, which I definitely don't recommend any younger riders doing. Um, because yeah, I was basically chewing off more than I could bite, really. And I mean, I qualified uh, 2 or 3 times for the gravel world, so I knew I was definitely going to be going to it. And then I knew that Badlands was definitely going to be detrimental to that race. So I just had to really just sort of recover as much as possible after the Badlands effort, and then go into the gravel worlds as fresh as I could. But I definitely wasn't 100%, but was still was still feeling pretty good, and had obviously a whole season in the legs. And I think that definitely helps just to sort of push through and sustain that effort. But yeah, I mean, the plan for the gravel worlds was, I mean, it was sort of a win just being there. To be totally honest, I wasn't there for a result or anything. It's pretty wishful thinking to try and get a decent result against World Tour riders and some of the best riders in the world. But for me, it was just fantastic to be there and experience that like level of racing, and obviously to represent the country, which is amazing. And when I first started out riding, I never thought that would be possible. So yeah, very cool to do it for sure. But yeah, there wasn't in the way of like sort of tactics or anything. There wasn't a huge amount really from British cycling. I think it's still such a new event, so yeah, it was pretty much a select handful of riders that got through and raced it. And we didn't really race as a team or anything. To be fair, I only knew a few people that were there, and yeah, it was full on bit of racing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, lining up against World Tour riders and something, or all of those people like that. I heard from a couple of other podcasts that was just carnage at the start. People cutting courses and things.
Yeah, it
Did you have
was
to put your
absolute
elbows out and
carnage.
stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, actually, I got a pretty decent start. So the way they did it was the amount of UCI races you did in that year got you up the starting grid a bit further. So I think I did 4 or 5 in the end. So I think I was in third row, so not bad at all, really. And some of the big hitters were, because it hadn't done any UCI qualifiers. Especially some of the guys from the US, they were pretty much on the last row. But yeah, it was full. The only way I can describe it is because it was on like a grass start as well. So it was basically like a cyclocross start, but with like 400 of the world's best gravel riders. So it was pretty intense. And then it was sort of like a grass loop, and then straight into the white roads, the first sort of sections of gravel, which were just absolutely carnage. It was so dusty and dry. So, and I was probably sat up in the top 50 and just sort of being, it was just absolute carnage. Yeah, it was just like a road race, really, with all of the best riders in the world and on gravel. It's, yeah, absolute carnage.
Yeah, what a day out. I mean, it just looked absolutely brutal. Is looking at the photos from it and from loads of people's experiences, it just looked like it was, just nuts. But yeah, to have the call up is just so cool. Racing at a world championships and stuff. Yeah, very, very jealous.
Yeah, it was
But
really
yeah, I
cool
think.
and really fortunate to be able to have that experience as well, especially sort of, I guess, being a part of the growing gravel scene in the UK as well. It was nice to get out there and sort of show your worth, I guess, and just to be able to sort of level up against those sorts of riders. It does give you, good motivation going into the next season, which is this year. And yeah, it's just nice to, I mean, you would never get that experience in the road unless start out as a junior, you go through all of the ranks and stuff, and, it takes a long, long time and a lot of dedication and a lot of everything really. Whereas with gravel, it is pretty much open to anyone. Obviously, you had to qualify for the worlds, but, it gives riders a lot more chances to be able to ride at that level. So,
Yeah, I really like the whole concept of age groups as well in gravel, where you've got a lot of people qualifying because it gives loads of people a really big opportunity to put on the GP stripes and put on that represent your country and have all of that as a goal, which I think is just really, really nice to see. It's something that you don't really see in a lot of the other world champs. And it's okay, yeah, it's on like a different day and everything like that, but still it's just really cool to see so many people get out there and represent and be just super gassed to get there.
no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's great. You're lining up with, you know, some top riders, and then you're lining up against people that like me that just work full time or do their own thing, and they find themselves in that situation where they are
Yeah.
against riders that do it full time. So it's pretty special in that way, I guess.
Yeah, and then sort of moving on to Tracker. So you've done that 3 years in a row, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what's changed from sort of the first year to that you did it to maybe how it went this year?
Yeah, so yeah, Traka's quickly become like probably the best gravel race in Europe, to be honest. It's based in uh, Girona, Spain, and there's a few distances now. There's 100, 200, and 360, and also they've introduced an ultra this year, which didn't actually happen in the end. But it was supposed to be a 560k route. But yeah, the first time I went was 3 years ago now, so 2021, and yeah, I think I just sort of saw it online or something, and then I've always wanted to sort of race gravel in Spain, and got out to that one, and basically had my ass handed to me. Really, it was probably the longest race I'd done at that point, and yeah,
Yeah.
it was just a bit of a sufferfest. Nothing really went to plan. Nutrition went down the toilet. Bike setup was rubbish. It rained a bit. It was just like everything bad that could have happened. And
Yeah.
then the next year, which was 2023, because I missed a year, I think, um, was a really really good race. Actually, I think I got a 10th or ninth or 10th, so real big improvement on the year before. Um, and yeah, that was just because I kind of was prepared for that sort of effort, and knew exactly how to ride that sort of distance and how the other riders rode it. So yeah, it was a really really good race a few years back, and then did it this year as well, which was just a totally new level, to be honest. I mean, the way gravel's going at the moment is you're finding that there's a lot of really really good riders that have either come off the roads at like a Conti level or even sort of retired World Tour level. But then you're also getting like really, really good, just sort of pure breed riders that can just ride at such a high intensity for so long, which is exactly the sort of recipe you need to be a good gravel rider. And and yeah, didn't have a good race at all this year. To be fair, I mean, I was started out really well. The pace was just nuts from the start. Really, I think first sort of 2 hours was over 300 watts average, and you're talking this is
Wow,
like a
is it?
12, 13 hour race. So you're just thinking like, how the hell am I going to hold this effort for this long? It's just hard to sort of race like that. It's like, how do you sort of manage your effort? But that's just the way it's kind of that's how a lot of the races sort of pan out now. You've just got to be able to ride so hard for so long. And yeah, I mean, it's changed massively. I mean, so like the first time I did it, there were no feed stations. I think one guy who was ex World Tour had someone in this sort of feed station area, which helped him with his the guy helped him with his like bladder pack, I think. But yeah, I mean, over the years of the event happening, I've definitely noticed it becoming a lot more professional. And that's not just Tracker; that's every race really. You're finding that there's teams now, there's full support in the pits, and yeah, I mean, this year at the Tracker was nuts really. I think every rider up in the top 20, maybe top 30, had a full support crew, which was crazy. Um, is yeah, the first time we did it, it was like literally lining up trying to get water out of one of the fountains in a little town. Pretty crazy how it's sort of evolved so quickly. But yeah, I mean, realistically, you can't race that sort of event without good support. And that, if you're in it for the adventure, then of course you can. But if you're trying to get a good result, you really need a support crew. Because riders are in and out of the pits in less than 10 seconds really, and if you're taking some time and you don't have someone in there, you have to fill your own bottles, you can easily lose a few minutes and then you're down. So yeah, big changes for sure. But I think it's for the good. It's the way that it's going, and it's just growth, isn't it? Really, it's becoming a lot more professional, and yeah, it's good to see. I'm definitely not sort of complaining about it for sure. There's still a sense of um, sort of self-support to it, but yeah, you can definitely rock up to some races now and sort of be blown away by the amount of support some guys have for sure.
Yeah, and does that sort of translate into the tactics of the race as well, or is it a bit more still tactical?
Yeah, definitely. I think more so in some of the US races where it was a thing that you would wait for everyone in the feed station, but now people try and get out of the feed station as quickly as possible. So if you're in and out in 10 seconds and someone else is taking their time, you've already, like I said earlier, you've lost some time there. So it's definitely lost. I think the sort of rules that were put in place originally have definitely kind of gone out the window. But and they call it the spirit of gravel.
Yeah, I think that died a very long time ago. When you've got was it Keegan Swenson who won Leadville on drop bars?
Yeah,
That's a big
this week,
sort of
last weekend, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so things are
But yeah,
changing very quickly, and it's always things are always going to change, and things have changed in road racing and the world tour and stuff quite quickly, and
mm,
it's good, but it just means if you want to race at that level, you just need more support, and I think in the future you will probably see a lot. It'll just I don't think there'll be many solo riders, to be honest. It'll be more sort of team tactics and team support and stuff. Um, which is good. But kind of part of the reason why I didn't really want to do much road was just because of the
yeah, yeah,
sort of team aspect, and it was nice to sort of race on your own and yeah, everyone for their own. So, but is what it is.
yeah. It's hard to change it. Do you think that's sort of being driven by sponsors, or do you think it's actually just that because it's so much easier to see all of these events now, rather than it being really hard to find them, that it's just all of those riders are going that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely you can still win races as a solo rider. Like you see Keegan Swenson, he's a solo rider,
Mm.
privateer, and he's winning all of the big races. So you can definitely still do it. But I think the attraction is for brands. You have a team. Take Panama, for instance, they've got their own sort of gravel off-road team, and it's great branding for them and great marketing material and stuff. So yeah, I think from a branding perspective, it's really cool, and from a racing perspective as well. If you've got four other guys in a five-man team racing such a distance like that, it's definitely beneficial for sure. Um, but what I found though is teams don't actually work that well together. To be fair, because it's not like road racing where you sit in a pack and you can play tactically. It still is almost like a every man for themselves type scenario, but it depends what race it is at the end of the day as well. Like Unbound is just flat, well, relatively sort of. I'll take flat away. It's just not flat at all, but it's just like big rolling roads where you can have a wide peloton, and tactics definitely do work there. But like I say, in that sort of distance, it's hard for everyone to be fresh and sort of have a play team tactics. It really just comes down to who's the strongest at the day at the end of the day. So
Yeah, and how does Unbound compare to Traka? Because it seems I've heard some people say that Traka is almost the European Unbound. Is it very similar, or is it really just the distance
yeah,
that's the same?
I think in terms of the sort of effort, it's very very similar. But the race itself is just massive. It's just such a huge event and so much around the event itself as well. It's really quite special. But yeah, I mean the racing was full on. I mean it's the biggest and best gravel race in the world, and there's so much sort of hype around it. So it's definitely like going into Unbound, I was a lot more, and I don't really get nervous nowadays for racing, but like I was pretty sort of worked up about it for quite a long time. Like checking bits of the bike over, getting new bits, and really sort of preparing every single thing that I had control over. Whereas I don't really do that in many other races. So I was kind of quite on the edge of that one just because I knew that it was such a big event. You've got so many good riders there. And yeah, there's to so much to sort of go for as well. I mean, if you win that event, it's like that can potentially sort of set you out for a really good sort of career and open up loads of new opportunities and stuff. And yeah, so yeah, great event in that aspect. But yeah, I mean the European racing is just different, as most sort of UK or European riders would know. It's just a different way of racing out here. It's a lot more. Um, I'd say it's probably a lot more aggressive in Europe and the UK. It's a lot more sort of yeah, like tighter terrain, tighter tracks, and just different. And in the US, like I say, it's just very wide open. It was very much like a big road race, and yeah, not very tactical at all. Really, it was very much just sort of yeah, just big rolling gravel roads and just strong riders sort of controlling it
Yeah.
really. Whereas I feel like a lot of the races out here, it's very much just ride as hard as you can. Um, ride all of this technical stuff and just absolutely nail it. So yeah, definitely different for sure.
And then for your race itself, I saw that you maybe had a few issues. Sort of what went wrong? What do you think you'd do differently next time?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was prepared for it, but definitely wasn't. I mean, for like going into, I knew it was going to be a really hard race. It's 200 miles at pretty much full chat. Um,
Yeah.
I think I think Dylan Johnson maybe had like around 300 watts average for the whole thing, maybe a little bit less. I can't quite remember the number, but a huge like effort to be putting out over 200 miles basically. And again, like how do you train for that? It's like really hard to like try and train for that distance, and it really is just a case of riding big weeks in the build up to it, like 30 potentially 40-hour weeks. Some of the riders were doing, and for me that wasn't really possible. So I just tried to sort of focus on some efforts and sort of sharpen things up a little bit and still get some good rides in where I'm riding long but at intensity, um, and sort of simulating the race itself really, I guess. But yeah, so didn't go into it as fresh as I wanted to be honest, and was kind of quite busy whilst I was out there as well, doing some bits of work and stuff. So found myself pretty sort of tied up and quite sort of tired before the race even started. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, had quite a good start really. Sort of was riding really nice up into the first feed station, and then after that, pretty much just blew up like a thousand pieces. um, when your legs give way, there's not a huge amount you can do, and it's really hard to just try and push through and get through it. because you've still got 100 odd miles to do, and you can't just push through all that effort for that long. So you've got to really sort of just step back and just sort of ease off the effort a bit, and just sort of try and chill. And sometimes you can come back out of it and start to feel good, but yeah, I just didn't really come back out of it at all, and just felt pretty crap the whole day really. But and another thing was just the heat as well. It's so humid out there, and totally different to the heat we have here in the UK. It's very like humid out there, and just like you're just drinking so much. And I made the mistake of just not sort of diluting my carbs with water, so I was just drinking like carb mix the whole day, and just felt super dehydrated and just a bit crap really. So yeah, notes for next time is just to sort of hydrate better, cool yourself down more, and yeah, just sort of just prepare for that big effort.
Yeah, I mean, sort of when you've got a full-time job, it's very different to training, when you've got all day to do that sort of thing. And even doing up to like 15 hours a week is very impressive, where you've only got 2 hours at realistically 2 hours or 3 days a week, and then you've got the whole weekend, which is, again, it's just so much dedication to be able to get yourself to such a high level, and then also be able to bump bars with all of these pros who are like, yeah, I've got a full team behind me, and I've got all of these people in the feed stations, and they're like, yeah, back to work on Monday and keep cracking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been shooting some content before this, and I'll probably do some afterwards as well. But yeah, so sort of, because obviously you work within the cycling industry itself, you must have seen sort of the rise of the social media sort of generation and influencing. And so I was interested to hear your thoughts on how content creation can get a rider to be at a professional level, and what place does it play within the whole professional cycling scene.
Yeah, I think like gravel's a really good example of that, is because you've got a lot of sort of creative people that are sort of doing these events and stuff, and just maybe um, understand how to sort of have a relationship with a brand a little bit better than say a rider that's been in a road team um, all of their career, and not really had the opportunities to engage with a brand, or sort of understand what sort of how to market yourself, I guess, because in most setups it's all sort of done for you, isn't it? Whereas as a privateer, you have to manage those relationships, and create content for them ultimately. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic tool for riders to use, because absolutely it can get you partnerships with brands, which will allow you to race more and ride on good equipment and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's good for sure, especially if you're trying to race. It's good to have support from brands and be able to work with them in certain ways. So yeah, really good in that aspect for sure. Um, but of course, you've got sort of just general influencers that sort of ride and do bits and bobs, which is cool as well. But I think from the sort of racing side, it's almost sort of it's kind of key, isn't it? Really, you can't have a relationship with a brand and not do anything.
Yeah.
It's a sort of two-way relationship, really, I guess. And yeah, yeah. I mean, you find that most sort of gravel riders are just, I guess, just a bit more sort of tuned into that, and just sort of have those relationships with brands and stuff, and create content for them. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, you're going to these amazing sort of landscapes and these amazing races, and there's so many stories to tell from so many different perspectives. So a really great opportunity for brands to sort of share that experience and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it kind of goes into a vein that I was talking to Amy Perryman about this sort of thing. It was actually that pretty much everybody's got a story to tell, whether that's, I, oh, I learned so much from Unbound, and I'm going to come back the year later and absolutely smash it. And that's a really interesting story to tell. Or if it's the I'm chasing pro cycling, and every single day, this is my training, this is what I'm doing, these are my events, and this is where I want to go. And I think so many people like to tie into that sort of thing and say, actually, oh, I am supporting this rider. And I think also when you get down to the individual level, not a lot of money in the grand scheme of these big companies goes very, very far for, in my impression, is for a company to invest in somebody. It's
Yeah,
people, an
and
individual rider will shout your name to the sky to if you give them enough to be able to support them for a season and that sort of thing.
yeah, definitely. And I think this it kind of goes down to why I sort of set up Clash at the start of the conversation was like, um, is it really valuable for a brand to put their logo on a road team kit, provide loads of product, and in most cases not really get a huge amount back for it. To be fair, that's like the sort of traditional way of doing it. Whereas, say supporting like a privateer, like an individual rider, you're basically working on a one-to-one basis. You can get a lot more out of that relationship from a brand perspective, and um, yeah, that person's able to kind of really get behind the brand and create specific content and do and just do cool stuff, I guess. Whereas, yeah, that sort of outdated model of sort of like a builder's company logo on a protein kit is just it's yeah.
Yeah, you've got what was it, quick step floors and alpha vinyl and all these sort of things. Which I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
to be fair to them, it is like, well, actually, yeah, you're advertising in Belgium and it kind of makes sense, all of that. But
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
totally. It's I think what's great with gravel as well is that it passes the this is the really cool test, where actually some of the other sort of disciplines can be a bit more boring if you're watching them all day long. Whereas, like, actually, you see those photos, and you're like, wow, actually, yeah, this is amazing. I've got somebody holding it down a descent on a gravel bike, and it's an amazing landscape, and there's a lot of sketchiness about it, and all of that sort of thing. So, you compare the following of like a downhill rider to a world tour rider on Instagram, and it is night and day. It's like Cade Edwards has got 200,000, maybe a million followers, and you know, someone who's at a similar level within that scene in the road scene, maybe not got that many.
Yeah, definitely, and that's like a really good way of putting it. Actually, is like the mountain bikers have kind of always been, I guess, like a bit of a step ahead in terms of like that whole content brand relationship thing. Because at the end of the day, like if and obviously social media has a big role to play in it, but if you're someone like Cade, like you say, just bashing out really sick videos on like a like a brand's bike, whatever, it's really cool to just sort of build up that audience and sort of inspire the younger generations and stuff really. Whereas I don't really think that inspiring for a brand to sort of have their logo on like a local team kit. If I was a brand, I would rather support a handful of individual riders that are doing cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think
completely.
that's just
Which
the way it's going in gravel is just um, I feel like it's just you get a lot more if you're a brand investing in individual riders for sure.
I've noted down a pretty fun question for you, which is if you had to recommend one gravel race to somebody to do, what would it be?
I would say I would probably just have to say Badlands or any other sort of ultra long distance race because like I said earlier, you get so much out of it, whether you want performance or you want to learn more about yourself or learn more about your body or what you're capable of. It really does test you. Um, Whereas obviously each race you do tests you, but I don't think you can really prepare for such a big race like that. And yeah, there's so many variables. So yeah, definitely either Badlands or some sort of big ultra race is definitely one to do.
Yeah, I think that would terrify me into training as well. seeing a very big number ahead of me, being like, oh yeah, I should probably be quite fit for this.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, and then so two last questions. One of them is the rift and how cold was the water?
The Rift was sick. That was actually, you know what? It was. That's if I was. Yeah, let me take that back. Actually, I would say either Badlands, some sort of ultra, or the Rift. That was by far one of the best races I've ever done. Just absolutely surreal. The landscapes just so mega. Really hard to like. If you've ever been to Iceland, then you kind of know what I'm on about. But it's like just so magical and so fresh, and yeah, just such a nice country to ride your bike in. Even if you're doing the Rift or you're just riding around Iceland, it's just so epic. But yeah, the water is very cold. So fresh though. You can just drink it. I think it's yeah, it's pretty cold. Yeah, I mean I think we probably went through like definitely over 10 river crossings throughout the race. So your feet are just soaked the whole time.
Yeah. Are they shallow, or is it, you're wading into your waist, that sort of thing?
Some are shallow, some are actually quite deep. Like if you, because we managed to do a recce at the start of the course, which was good to like get the line right whilst the sort of group is still together. Because if going into water crossing with sort of 100 other riders is pretty hard to choose a line. So knowing like the line to choose at the start of the race was really handy. Um, but yes, the sort of like further on in the race where we didn't get to explore or recon it was yeah, some of the bits I went through were definitely like wrong line choices, and some were actually quite deep because it's just like big sort of like rocky sort of almost like your wheels just sink into it. But yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough not to crash or anything, but there are quite a lot of people that sort of took a wrong line, and sort of their front wheel just gets sucked in, and you just fly over the bars.
Oh man, it's straight into that freezing cold water as well.
Yeah,
Oh, mate. Yeah, I mean, just I've always wanted to go to Iceland. I think my brother went when he was, you know, 14, 15, and saw some amazing things. And yeah, I think, got to chuck that one on the bucket list. So,
no,
now that
absolutely.
now I've got a full-time job, I can maybe afford to get myself out there, which would be good fun.
Yeah, no, definitely recommend it for sure.
But yeah, so sort of to wrap up, what's coming up to you? Are you hopping back over to America, or are you focusing more on the UK scene?
Yeah, so pretty much wrapped most of the season up now. What I tried to do at the start of this year was focus on just key events really, which was Traka, Unbound, and the Rift, and then sort of try and qualify again for the Gravel Worlds, which I'm still trying to do. I've done one so far, which was the Gralloch, which didn't go so well. Had a flat tire, which put me out of contention, which is a bit annoying. But hoping to try and do another qualifier to go to the Worlds again, and then um, yeah, the King's Cup actually, which is coming up at the end of this month, end of August. So that's another big target of mine to try and get a good result there. Because yeah, I've just sort of taken quite a bit of time to feel good on the bike this year, and starting to actually feel really good again. So yeah, quite hopeful that I can get a decent result there. That's kind of like the last real opportunity I think that I can get a good result. So definitely want to go full gas at that one in Scotland. So there's that, and then yeah, I was actually looking at a ultra race in Spain for October to just sort of see things off, um, because yeah, I just want to sort of end the season on something that's just a bit more enjoyable and something that I don't have to sort of stress about, and just sort of enjoy the adventure really.
Yeah.
And then maybe
Nice.
some cyclocross in the winter. I don't know
Represent.
yet.
Yeah, I'm sure that I can convince you to come to some nationals or something like that. It'd be good fun.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think I will. It's I've always done a bit of a cross season and stuff. It's good fitness to tick it over in the winter.
Mm.
So absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this pod. It's been super interesting to hear about how you've gone up to super high level in gravel racing, and then also where, you know, making the most of social media can take a place for an up and coming rider. And I think that's, a super interesting point to learn about as well. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me. And yeah, I guess if anyone has any questions about gravel racing or content or partnerships and stuff, then just reach out to me on Instagram. But yeah, thanks a lot for having me, man. It's good to catch up.
No worries. We'll drop the link in the description. But yeah, sweet. Alrighty.